And 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for taking time to join me today. I have a very special guest today. As if everybody saw my Facebook today, I posted a photo from my guest today, and it's created a great storm, which is great. Anytime you can rev people up and get them thinking is good. I'm joined by my assistant, Sinead Wildahan from Toronto. Good afternoon, Sinead.
Hi, Grant. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Beautiful. You sort of know what's coming here. You've seen some of the photos. I sent you some of the photos last night. So you know, I sometimes say when I introduce a lecture or something, a big idea, it's an old joke they used to use on WestJet. Fasten your seatbelts. We're about to go very, very fast. And we have an awful lot of material, and this is going to upset some people. There's some people who I sort of refer to as the insect people. They have a fascination with insects or with dust and stuff, and they're sort of on the march now. I have as my special guest today, Darrell Stokes, who, if you were with me last week, I did a presentation on orbs, and I featured some of Darrell's material, and I thought this is some of the best material I'd ever seen. And I said to Darrell, can you come on and can we do a full interview? So what we've done today is I contacted Darrell and I said to him, send me the photographs. Let's put them all up. Let's go through them. So we have an awful lot of photographs. So we're going to be clicking through. I'm going to take over the screen, and we're just going to go through, and Darrell and I and Sinead will be talking in the background as to what this is. We'll explain how this is done. And all the people who can take a look at this. This is some of the most fascinating material I've ever seen. No matter what you think how this was done, this is absolutely amazing stuff. And this is one of 3 major interviews I'm doing. Darrell is probably the biggest, but I have another one we're doing with a guy in Hong Kong on the weekend who also has a huge collection of these type of photos. But Darrell, I would say, is the orb king for sure. Darrell Stokes, welcome, and thank you for sending me the photos. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have all your stuff in order here, and we can go through these photos and explain how this all started for you and what this is all about. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. As you saw, I posted some of your stuff last week, and I sent a couple of your emails that you sent me last night to a few people, and they just said, can I send it to someone else? I'm like, wow, it's like, this is unreal. And your stuff is really unreal. It is amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take over the screen, and we're going to take a look at these photos that you sent me. I put them all in one huge PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
And you can maybe, as we start, you can sort of talk about how you got started. Like, how did you get into the UFO field, into this field of taking photographs of orbs?
Well, coming from Bowling Green, Kentucky, it's a bit different there. But when I was called to Sedona, everything opened up, and I started having while being here, I started having dreams and visions of Mount Shasta, and I'd never been there before, and ended up going to Mount Shasta August of 2012. And I was there for 2 weeks, and I started having some quite remarkable things happen to me that I wasn't really familiar with at that time. But clearly I'd heard, bring your camera along with you. And as I did, I started taking photos of things that, I thought, that's interesting. Why is that light? Over there in the trees, and what are these, so many orbs around here? And I know that Mount Shasta has the same energy as Sedona, and the two are very linked. And during that time frame, there were times where I would hear a voice say, you're going to be, alone walking back. And I'm like, that's not possible. I'm surrounded by people. And I had a vision of a cabin up there, even though I'd never been there. And I found the cabin up at Horseshoe Camp. And it was something, because when I found that cabin, I'm like, okay, now that's interesting. And I'm there with a group of people, and I told them I'm going to go fill my water bottle. I'll be right back. And when I came back from filling my water bottle, they were all gone. I'm like, well, that can't be possible. And I found myself, trying to catch up with them, but they were gone. So eventually when I made it back to the camp, I'm like, where did y'all go? And they're like, what are you talking about? I experienced a loss of time, and I'd never, had that occur to me. And I've kind of found out, like on the 411s, that people tend to go missing up there. And I was just very grateful that they allowed me to come back. But during that time that I experienced the loss of time, I was, it was shared with me that I would be an ambassador of the Universal Nations. And I'm like, ambassador for what? And and I'm like, I don't understand what that means. And so what they were coming through was like, all of us want to communicate with you. And who's all of you? The elemental kingdom, the animal kingdom, our star brothers and sisters, Sasquatch, all these different individuals. And then I started being connected with all these various people that were strongly connected with that. Sue Walker and Reverend White Otter, Clifford Mahooty, and Kevin. These individuals, I were able to show them the photos, and of course there were beings all around them, and a lot of the individuals that they were interacting with were interacting with me, and I had no idea who these individuals were. I worked at Walt Disney, in the past, and of course, Tinkerbell. You always want to believe that Tinkerbell is real, and lo and behold, I moved to Sedona and asked if the fairies are here, please show yourself. And sure enough, on 4/20 of 2012 at 8:02 in the evening, they showed themselves, and that was like, oh, is this real? And of course I go to show someone, they're like, the gentleman that was right there with me, he's like, do it again. And I took 4 photos, and 3 of them showed up in 4 of the photos. And of course I go to show other people, and they're like, you photoshopped that. I don't know how to Photoshop. I have no clue how to do it. I just ask if it's real, please show yourself. If you have a message for me to share with others. And it just comes through the orbs and all of that. And I'm colorblind, so a lot of the stuff, and I'm colorblind on the whole spectrum, from the reds, blues, purples, greens, yellows, all that. So I've seen a different view than others, but I just allow myself to be open, to just so I can share it with others. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good little intro. Now we're going to get to the slides. And as you know, I started to take a lot of flack for putting these photos up, which is okay with me. And so people said, you film, you can easily get these orbs. So of course I started filming a couple of weeks ago, and I filmed in different light conditions and videos and stuff like that. And of course, guess what I got? Absolutely nothing. And then they said, oh, if you take the camera and you take the flash and you go outside in the night, you get all sorts of stuff. So last night I went on a walk. And I was walking around for about 45 minutes, and I was click, 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 click. And I got the camera going with the flash, and I'm photographing just randomly around or whatever. And of course, what do I get? Absolutely nothing, not a single thing. And this morning, I get almost like help from the gods, where I'm up on a 3rd-story apartment visiting someone. And here I see this dust, and I go, holy cow, they're talking about dust. So I immediately run to the balcony, and here what you can see is the machine that's actually doing the dust picking up is actually, you can't even see it. It's a big leaf blower, vacuum that they're picking up. We've got all the parking lots with all the dust and all the stuff from the winter time, sand and stuff like that. And they're picking up all the sand, and they're picking up the leaves and this huge cloud of dust. So of course I started to film this dust. And of course you see absolutely no orbs. It films as dust. So a lot of people made this sort of complaint that, well, it's dust, and if you film it, and you get the light off the dust and this sort of stuff. Or they'll say, of course, that it's bugs. So I did all the tests, and I know there are a number of people who've written orb books who have done the tests, and it does not happen that way. So when we come across something like what you're coming up with, I pay close attention, because you have tremendous numbers of photos. And these are taken, as you can probably confirm, they're taken in different places with all sorts of different people, with different, more than one camera. And let's start with these here. So this is, I think, this is the Sasquatch event, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you've got a couple of orbs on the right-hand side there. And of course, people will claim that this is dust. Are you using a flash off this thing?
I am using a flash.
Okay. So here's, I think that's Kevin Estrella there. And we start going through. So then you say, well, you know, there's an awful lot of dust in the air.
Yeah.
And I assume that you've got photos where it's clear, and then the next one has got the orbs in it.
Yeah, there's somewhere. A lot of times there's maybe very little, and then there's massive amounts. And I always find it interesting that dust can be all different colors, you know, and have all the different faces or beings in it, you know. And it's you know, skeptical mind always wants to, you know, be able to explain it, you know, because you feel more comfortable being able to do that.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm right there too, you know, like you know, do it again. And
And yeah, you see here the different sizes of particles that you're getting there. And so what's your interpretation after all the time that you've been filming this stuff as to what these things are?
the living energy, conscious energy at that. You know, the orbs, they move, they can interact. You know, small ones, big ones, you know, multicolored ones. Some travel in each other. You know, from what some of the orb books that I've read, you know, the angels, loved ones that have passed over, coming through. And for me, you know, I've had loved ones that have crossed over, and I've asked them to show themselves, and you know, and they have, you know, in a way that, you know, blew my mind. And people were around me, and they saw, you know, they were right there, and they saw nothing there until I took the picture, and they're like, that's not possible, you know. But we live in a world where you know, anything is possible if you're open to it.
Now, what kind of camera are you using here?
I use it's a Nikon Coolpix.
Okay, just a standard type camera.
The
And I see Kevin Estrella's in this photo. You said, I think in the first go around, that when he was there, this thing started to really pick up, that he seemed to attract them.
Yeah, you know, I asked him if he would be willing to take a walk with me, you know, to see that we could call something in. And he was like, yeah, let's go for it. And literally, you know, the moment that he started inviting them in, they really put on a show, you know. And other people that were there, and they were like, hey, you know, can we get in the photo too? And it's like, absolutely, you know. And they're all around them as well. And some there'd be hardly any, and others there would be massive amounts.
Were there other people photographing at this time?
There were.
Yeah, and did they pick up anything?
Some people did pick up some, and others didn't pick up any. And the ones that were picking up, they'd ask, you know, how do you call them in? Invite them in. You know, if you're open to it, you know, which it's all about the frequency. You know, if you're open and you believe, then of course it's going to show itself. You know, if you're not open to it and you don't believe, why would it show itself to you? And even if it did, you know, would you even be open to acknowledge it as such? And after all these years, I just allow myself to listen to my intuition, you know. And you ask yourself, how often is your intuition wrong? You know, and it's never, you know, especially when it's coming from the heart. And I just allow myself to follow through with that. And as I said, you know, we have a message to share, you know, with you, for others. And believe you me, there are plenty of people that get triggered by it, you know, because it's, you know, and that's all right, you know, because people are meant to get shook up.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, look at this one. I mean, it's like almost like it covers the entire screen. This is up in Washington at a Sasquatch conference. Is that correct?
That is correct. Up at the Chihuahua, I believe, is the place. That was my third year going. The friend of mine who had passed back in 2017 from Florida, he's like, "Hey, would you like to go to Sasquatch conference?" And I kind of looked at him like, "Are you for real?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so I'm like, "Sure, I'm open to it." And we went, and because I was already used to, you know, getting plenty of orb photos, but when I went up there, it was just like a whole nother level of them really coming through. I mean, it's very normal for me to take them and them appear around Bell Rock, Cathedral Rock, and the other powerful vortexes around here in Sedona. But to be up there, that place just felt like a giant, massive vortex, and the photo showed, especially at night. You know, and you could feel when the temperature shifts in particular spots, and like there's something here,
Yeah.
and you take the photo, and sure enough, and you know, and Kevin was like, "Hey, let's see what happens." And the more you kept calling him in, the more it's like it was a giant orb party, if you will, or some people call it an orb shower.
Yeah, that does look like a shower. I mean, that's just incredible. And this is like a clear night. And is it windy? Or probably not windy. Is it windy? No.
No wind.
Okay. Here we almost have them lining up.
And then there's some that are in motion. You can see the tails on them, and there are some that appear as single orbs, and then of course multiple orbs. Like the one over in the corner, I can't tell if it's blue or purple, but it's definitely a very unique color.
Oh yeah. Up on the left-hand side there.
Hmm.
Wow. And so you think that they want this photographed? Do you have some sort of mission to do this?
When I was called here to Sedona, I was told that I would be a bridge or a connector, and I'm like, what are you talking about? To help for people to see the unseen. So when I started learning more about astrology, that my North Node is in Sagittarius, which is being able to see the unseen. So when I was up at Shasta, and they said that you're an ambassador of the universal nations, that orbs, star beings, and what I noticed, a lot of them tend to show up together. Um, and so that was what I was noticing, that you'd catch an elemental with an orb, or Sasquatch with an orb, or whatnot. And primarily for me, they just everywhere, whether it's in Sedona, Arizona, or Washington, or California, or Florida, or Kentucky, wherever I went, they were there. Of course, they've always been there. It was
Yeah.
just being able to be open to receive them, because if you're in fear, you're going to block them. And
There you go.
if you're in doubt, then why would they show themselves? And if they did, would you even be open to receive it?
This is one here. You can barely see anything in the photo except for orbs. It's so
Hmm.
massive.
That's when they were just really like, yeah. There's I tell Kevin, so you're not going to believe what's on here.
Somebody mentions love. Is you're talking fear? Is love involved, or how does that fit into the whole scenario?
The love versus hate. The love is the ultimate frequency, love and joy. And the elementals and the orbs, animals, children, they can tell when a person has coming from a place of love and integrity, and when they're not. And for those that are open to that, all you need to do is call it in. Orbs tend to show up around children. They tend to show up around pets. They tend to show up around people at parties and gatherings, and especially those that are like mind, that are open to conversing with them. We know that their energy, moving energy at that, conscious energy, and they clearly can interact and demonstrate as they please with others. I mean, if that's a lot of if that's dust, those people should be coughing like crazy. you know the
No kidding. I mean that's just incredible. I mean that's like
Or
one of the
sneezing.
most intense. Now we move to this event. Now this is a Chinese. Is this a Chinese? What is it?
that is at a Buddhist monastery. I
Okay.
was invited there in 2016 to document my friend's family ceremony
Okay.
there, and I'd never been out of the country, so that was literally my first time out of the country, and it was there in China,
Where's this at?
Shanghai.
Oh, in Shanghai. Okay.
Hmm.
Wow.
And the monks over here, you can see the monks are in there chanting. And
Yeah.
this was on the summer solstice of 2016. And as we were outside, and I was taking the photos, and you could just see that they were coming through those little benches right there that everyone had to kneel and bow, bison pie is what they call it, bow 3 times.
Yeah.
My knees were swollen like the size of grapefruits from that. But it was they had told me that they had never seen that before, and I was the first person that was allowed to document there at the monastery. And there was a lot of interaction there, inside, outside, and it just, it just kept coming.
This is one of the ones I was showing to some of the people last night, and they were just going like, "Wow." What did the monks have to say? Did they see these photos?
The monks did see the photos. They invited me. They said, "Would you like to become a monk with us?" It's my first time out of the country. Some people would be rather upset if I chose not to come back. But they said it was a great honor to be considered. And this is where they hold for the ancestors. And I got to, also do the ceremony as well for all my loved ones. And as you could tell, even in there, that the orbs were very active and moving around. And, or inside outside, but that for them it's a very sacred place, and to be allowed to take pictures in their very sacred place was a great honor. So that was incredibly humbling.
Is this the
the,
moon in the background there?
that is the moon in the background. That's a cathedral rock, and that
Okay.
was in one of those vortexes here in Sedona. And it said that when you go there, you can a lot of healing takes place. And just that particular night, just feeling it, and it's full moon, and sure enough, at the drum circle, um, and it really they were very active there as well. And that's where I usually would see that type of orb interaction was at the vortexes here in Sedona. But when, Chihuahua and the other places, and they're of course inside, they're all over, and big ones, small ones. And from studying some of the orb books, that I'd been reading, that the larger orbs tend to be the angels or the archangels coming through. And then of course and they can combine themselves, where you'll see an orb that has multiple colors in it, so the colors of the angels, Michael blue, the Raphael green, and usually Gabriel white or orange, and those coming through. And sometimes you'll see the gold one, the Christ consciousness coming through.
Wow.
And I just allow myself to be open. And it's like, if you're here, please show yourself. And they're in the house. One, you can see that was Riley, or soft coat Wheaten Terrier. There was an orb right beside him, and then there was a larger one right above it.
And this is your house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, there is one beside the dog there. He's sort of checking out the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Or protecting the dog, I guess.
Well, those are, these two hanging out here together. And then it just, that looks like eyes in that one.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to the faces thing. What is this up at Shasta?
Now, this is actually on the back row here. It's called Old Indian Road, but that's a natural spring that comes out of there.
Okay.
And this is, on the trail towards Mushroom Rock. And this is during broad daylight. And, lo and behold, orb shows up, and there it was, massive orb moving through there. And it's like, wow, even during the daytime,
Wow.
there it is. And it's like, okay. And it's in motion. And of course there was nothing there. I didn't see anything there when I took the picture. I just, like taking a picture of that place, because it just, dragonflies are pretty active right there.
Yeah.
But it was a nice response.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that looks like there's a guy here in Winnipeg who has a couple of those inside his bedroom, very bright like that.
Mm.
And where's this?
That is a Bell Rock.
Okay.
And that, I call it the most powerful vortex here. And some people may say it's Boynton Canyon, but it's got a strong mixture of divine masculine and feminine energy there. And I kept having dreams about it before I ever came here to Sedona. Elementals, that one, you can see the different color on
Okay, so
it.
describe what an elemental is compared to something else. Give us sort of the categories that we're looking at.
Well, the elemental, I call them fairies, or luminescence, if you will, and they can come in all different kinds of shapes, but usually they are glowing, and they usually have some type of, color energy coming off of them, and they can appear in a multitude of ways. And there, of course, there's the water elementals and the earth elementals, and the air elementals and the fire elementals, leprechauns and pixies, and with this being showed up, I just knew that it had a very interesting face to it. Most orbs look like orbs, but this orb looked a little bit different to me. It kind of looked like an owl or whatnot. And this was my dear friends from Miami. We went to a couple of the different flower botanical gardens there, and this happened to show up during that time frame. And a lot of people say lens flare. But I've never seen a lens flare with that intricate detail. And if it is, I mean, my goodness, we are beings of light. We come from the stars, but yes, some people, want to discount that. So even though there's messages in light, light coatings and whatnot.
Yeah, they could be using light to put a message across as well. I mean,
yeah,
that's an impressive one. And this is like moving the one on the top there we're looking at.
Yeah, well, we were driving, and out past Bell Rock, and decided to stick the camera out and take a photo, and it was following us. I'm like, we're being followed by an orb. Say what? We're being followed by an orb. Get out of here. I'm like, oh yeah, we are being followed by an orb. So they do move. I mean, and they move at the speed of light. I mean, so that's interesting. I mean, like, is it a comet? It's like, no, there's no comet that I'm aware of. And if it was that low, I believe that everybody else would notice it also.
Wow.
I've got a question for you, Darrell. I've got a question for you. Considering that you managed to catch all these amazing photographs, how do you know, like, are you always picking up your camera just completely randomly and shooting whether or not you see something in front of you? Or do you sometimes get the experience of feeling like something's about to happen, like the hair on your neck stands up or something like
Both.
that? Do you ever get before you
Yeah, it's usually both. There are times I'm sitting down and just I'm watching something on YouTube and I hear grab your camera and come outside. And I learn to listen to my intuition, because when I do, usually something quite remarkable happens. And other times, I'm out walking, and then I'll literally the hair on the back of my neck will stand up, or I'll get the the goosebumps, and it's like there's something here. And of course, take the picture, and there the smoke was coming up, and then you see the mist in the smoke along with the orbs, and it's like, okay, that's interesting. um and that's
Can
just
you describe what you think? Because I've sort of kept it secret, but I've gone through a lot of people's orbs photos, and eventually, like you, everybody gets to showing me this fog. Some people call it an etheric mist, or what's your definition of what this is? Because it does appear, and people say it's fog. Well, give your head a shake, because I'll show a photo later. Fog is on the ground. It's horizontal. It's not vertical. But people will start to show this. Some people describe a being is coming. What's your interpretation of what this mist is? That this vertical mist that seems to appear with orbs.
the almost call it ectoplasm, if you will. Even a lot of the older photos from way back, they would describe it as ectoplasm. But when I was up at Shasta, they said that multiple beings would be coming through, and you would see them hanging out together. And the we live in a multi-dimensional world, and the parallel worlds and whatnot, and the string theory and all that good stuff. So these individuals come through. This was actually at a ayahuasca ceremony,
Oh, wow.
the Pachamama church. So and going out to connect, and knowing that and it was here in Sedona, so that energy was incredibly strong. And I asked for permission. It was okay to take a photo, and when I did, that's what appeared, and it was like, okay.
Wow. Yeah, this is one of the more impressive ones. So you actually asked for permission to take this photo?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's impressive. And it comes out of the. So you're saying the stuff like ectoplasm, it's coming out of the mist, and it's forming objects or coming out of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds very much like ectoplasm. And I do believe there's this connection. If you go across, you start to see these parallels.
It was a cloud, but the cloud looked like a face, like it had two eyes. I'm like, okay, so that's an interesting cloud. And of course, it was over Bell Rock. And I tend to, a lot of interesting things show up over Bell Rock,
Yeah.
And it's like, that's an interesting looking cloud, and it looks like it's looking.
Yeah.
And I just, figure out, take a picture of it.
I have a girl from France that I did an interview with who has the same contention, and she basically is being told that this intelligence will show itself not just in orbs or in physical beings, but in parts of physical space and clouds and stuff like that. That it's all conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it looked like a ship to me, that was up at Airport Mesa, taking photos, and I've never seen anything quite like that. And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, that looks pretty interesting. And it's like, okay. And then of course I take another photo, and it looks like, light language. So I was like, but once again, these individuals are able to communicate, and, the light frequency is able to do quite remarkable things. And if you're open to it, the light there, next photo, and that's what it looked like. And it's like,
wow.
And I didn't show anybody this photo for quite some time, because I'm already labeled manic depressive bipolar, so people think I'm crazy as a loon anyway. So I showed him to my doctor, and doctor said exactly what what she saw in the photos as well. So I was like,
wow.
Okay, so what do you think? Yeah, we're gonna up your medication dosage.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Darrell, with that ship, the one that was shaped like a ship a couple of slides ago, there were two really bright lights. Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Two really bright lights, and then three that are underneath that are not lit up. Are the orbs staying lit up the entire time you're seeing them? Or are they behaving differently, like flashing on and off? So maybe this shot was caught those two flashing, but not the other three?
It was just blinking off and on. And then of course when I attempted to take it again, it started doing the squiggly, and I was like, okay, because there were others with me, and I asked, did they see it? And they did not. You know, so it's, you know, for those that are open to it, it will reveal itself.
See, this is a
Wow, my
single
Google
shot.
just,
This is a single shot.
yes, that's a single shot.
No time exposures. That's whatever that is moving around pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got the light there. Wow.
Yeah.
Here we get this mist stuff again.
Yeah, and you can see that the face starts to appear. You know, this my good friend Jeff, you know, is right below Jeff, and Sue had told him the Ponte were going to be appearing, and we're inside. You know, and literally it starts. You can see the face, you know, the mouth, the eyes. It starts to form, you know, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, we have an orb down at the bottom there as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that was a lot of people there. You know, all the same conscious. You know, all gathered there for healing, and they were literally calling them in. You know, during the ceremony. This was down in New Mexico. I want to say at Faywood near Silver City.
And what kind of ceremony are we doing here?
It was a healing ceremony, and they were, you know, not only for the star people but for the planet and the water, and we were calling everyone in. And
okay.
it's another one of those you know, ships, and this one, you know, you know, and what was coming through, and it's like, you know, I just see it or feel it, and I take the photo.
Wow.
And this is another one that I hadn't showed to anybody because, you know, I sure in heck didn't want the Men in Black showing up. But it,
wow.
you know, but that was just Sedona's a hot spot. You know, Mount Shasta's a hot spot. Wow. You know, New Mexico's a hot spot. You know, actually the whole Southwest is a hot spot.
Okay,
you know.
let me question you on that. Like, because people say, well, there's a hot spot, but then some people don't get it. But it seems to be that you're the hot guy. I mean, it happens around you that wherever you go, it follows you around. That I can go to Shasta. I took photos at Shasta. I was there twice in the last couple of years, and I got nothing. So it may be that you're tapped into the field, whatever this is, that they've chosen you, and for whatever reason, you can pick up the camera and you can sense them and you can photograph them. Whereas I can sit there and photograph till kingdom come, and I don't pick up anything.
That's when I was at Shasta, and they took me. And they shared with me that you would, you know, an ambassador of the Universal Nations, you know, and it's like, so this is, you know, one of those, you know, lens flares, I imagine. But for me, you know, the archangels appear in multicolors, you know, and so this was like several of the archangels coming through. And this is at, you know, the parking lot of one of the places I used to work at doing readings at, you know, and you know, I've never seen one quite that large like that. And it's kind of showed itself, you know, around other individuals, and usually those individuals that it shows up around, blessed, you know, that they're being assisted and whatnot. And usually if there's someone around me or I'm around them, usually something will show. Every time the Sasquatch for the past 3 years, you know, for those that wanted to see it or wanted to experience it, you know, or wanted to be able to take photos of it, you know, it was like being able to pass that energy along, you know, where they were able to activate that frequency to be able to do so.
You were back at the ceremony.
Did the equipment matter at all, Darrell? Like, did the equipment matter whatsoever? Does it matter what kind of camera you're using? Does it matter, like, the technology you have? Does that have anything to do with it whatsoever?
No, I just use a standard, you know, I mean, this is my Canon, you know, and it's just a T3, you know, that I use like for the, you know, the rainbow ones, you know, this one, and then of course my little, you know, Nikon Coolpix, you know, and they're just standard. There's nothing, you know, remarkable about them. They're, you know, standard cameras, and I've never been professionally trained. I couldn't tell you what the ISO speed or any of that stuff is or what it means at all. I just, you know, turn on the camera and ask if it's here, please show yourself, or whoever wants to communicate, you know, and I take the photo.
Yeah, you got the fog, and you got a bunch of like dark, real bright orbs and lighter orbs and orbs all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty impressive. Here's again.
And that's, of course, there's Sue and Otter, you know, and you know, and the Ponte interacts with them incredibly strong, and there's Clifford too. So, you know, the group was there, You know, and I
What
was
does
blessed.
Clifford say? But what do they say about all this stuff? What is their interpretation?
They're absolutely open to it, and they, of course, the Ponte, you know, they had said that they would be showing up. And, you know, I did not know that they had, you know, communicated and said they would be making an appearance. I was just, you know, being called to take the photos. So, this is up at the Chapel of the Holy Cross, and you know it's, you know, it's a vortex spot itself here, and some people may see the angel or look like an angel to me, you know, of course, yeah, it's just the light rays orb on the guy's butts, you know, and it's, but there was no mist in there at that time. There was no, you know, there's no incense or anything going. So I'm looking around taking these photos thinking, does anybody else see this, you know, but because I'm thinking this is nuts. But yeah, it's what's coming through, and I didn't want to make a scene or anything. I just took the pictures. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, and I didn't show that. You know, I've never met these individuals. I just, you know, whoever they were lighting a candle for, you know, it's like they were there with them. You know, and it's like, you know, you're in the Chapel of the Holy Cross, and here you have, you know, the signs of divine, you know, the confirmation. At least that's how I took it. You know, that you want to know that you're here for a purpose, you know, and to be able to help see the unseen. And believe you me, some people get worked up, whether it's an angel or fairy or orb or ship, you know, it's not real to them, and that's okay, you know, but for others, it is incredibly real. And I just know that I usually take a camera with me wherever I go, and yeah, if I'm guided to, you know, to take the photo, I will. I don't actually go out to seek it, you know. I just, you know, like now here's up at Shasta again, you know, and when they said you'll be alone holding the light, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And of course, my friend said, hey, I got to go back to the campsite, and there I am holding, sure enough, keeping the fire going, and this, it looks like an individual, you know, the chin, the mouth, you know, I'm like, there's a being in the fire. How often does fire make, you know, images where
Yeah.
you can see something out of it? And I took 3 consecutive shots, and now, you know, and the next one, like, it looks like it's a fire salamander, you know, like it's got his little arm is dancing or doing something, you know, it's like, okay, you know, and then there's a face there, you know, it's like, all right, 3 different faces in the fire. But sure enough, I heard that you'll be alone holding the light, and I'm like, that's crazy. That won't happen. And yeah, yes, it did. This is in my friend's backyard in Miami, and they have a peace pole there, and an orb above the peace pole. I mean, an orb above the peace pole. So, you know, a conscious energy that recognizes it's a peace pole, you know, and there it was, and that's Jack and Donna. And this is at the parking lot down in Tucson. Me and Clifford had went to the a convention down there, a UFO convention that we were speaking and whatnot. And as we were coming out, I'm taking photos, and the whole parking lot is lit up. And of course, there's no dust on the ground, but I mean, I imagine it could be, you know. But it's like, if it is, it's really doing some unique things out there. But it's an old movie studio, and of course, it was at a steampunk convention, you know. So you had all these different individuals there, and I'm just taking photos, and that's, you know, what was you know, literally out in the parking lot.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah.
You know, and there's Clifford. He's got his little, you know, his little thing on.
Yeah, this is I kind of time. They almost like they got a sense of humor here with the orb, where they're taking it.
Well, thank you. You know, they really do. You know, sometimes we get so worked up, and you know, Spirit wants you to, you know, have a sense of humor, because humans do some funny things. You know, and usually, you know, when we get so worked up about it, you know, I saw a face, or at least an eye, right there, and the other one, there was a gentleman. It looked like the orb was literally right there, you know, on him. And this is where the first photo, there was nothing on the butterfly, and then I took the second photo, and you can see the being appear on the butterfly, and it's like it had its own arms, its own body, and it's like there's a being on the butterfly.
Wow.
I saw it as clear as day, and it's like I took the photo, and there was like there's nothing there, and then, you know, the very next photo, the being is there, and it's like,
Wow.
and I heard Archangel Gabriel say, you know, I have a message
Wow.
for you. Take the picture. I'm like, oh, the butterfly. I'm like, all right, well, butterfly represents transformation, and then you see it, and this being has its own body, and it's like it's hitching a ride, because it's there and then it's gone. But there it was, and you could see its own little body, its own little wings, its own little head, its own little antenna. The butterfly's antenna over here, you know, but there it was, and I'd never experienced that before. But that was at Red Rock Crossing, this is in my friend's backyard in Claremont, Florida.
This would be elemental again.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it's you can see that it's on the ground doing its thing, and it's it got its own unique colors to it.
Wow. That's impressive.
And there was no insect right there. We would have clearly saw it, but you can see that it's it's got its own little colors and super luminescent. And it doesn't even look like an insect. This is my friend Michelle, and she was receiving a text from her family saying, "Hey, do you feel our dad's presence?" And this was on 11/11 of 2015.
Wow.
And we were at Wekiva Spring, my first time ever kayaking, and literally on the water. And I take the photo, and there it is, confirmation that her father was very much with her, who had passed. And so that was, once again, confirmation that our loved ones, they may not be here in the physical, but they are very much with us in the spiritual. And a lot of times we forget that we're spiritual beings living a human life, and that it's about what you're open to, as far as learning and growing. This is my friend Edie, who invited me to Shanghai, and when I said, let's go outside, they're saying go outside. So take the picture, and once again, there's that being, and it's directly, right there on her.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating.
So these are two of my girls, and we were at Mammoth Cave, national park. And of course the national parks seem to hold a lot of unique energy, and this was right above them. And then right there by Maya, there's another rainbow color orb by them, and that was just confirmation that watched over. This is a dear friend. This is McKenna, and I could feel this presence around her, and you almost could see the lips of it, the right there. And it really showed out around her, because there were multiple beings that showed up around her. The golden orb was one of them that showed up, and you could see the face in it. And if it's lens flare,
that's impressive. That one there.
Lens flare to have a face in it, okay. But she could feel the presence, and so I took the picture, and that's what showed itself. And they love being around children, so because children have an innocence about them, and animals have innocence about them, and out of the mouth of babes, they will share the wisdom to us, because they speak with no filter, and she felt like my great grandmother from a past life. That's how the energy, the connection there, but always around her.
That's one of the more impressive ones. That one there. It's almost like you could do greeting cards with, with these things. It's like, wow, stunning.
And here's another one where she's literally got this aura, surround her, and then as it's coming down, and of course, here it is, and then the other one has got the face in it. But once again, it's around her.
So the gold, you say, is Christ consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow.
So this is one of my coworkers, Lisa. She said, hey, I want to see them, and she was calling them in, and literally they showed themselves for those who are open, they will come through. They absolutely will show themselves, and this is, for anyone who's open and willing to call it in. Yeah, this is one of the, I call it light language, because you're seeing the ship, or at least it looks like the glowing dot, and then you take a picture of it, and it's not a glowing dot, it's something else. And of course, always over Bell Rock, they tend to interact over there a lot.
Wow.
The multi or orange or green one right there, up there.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. We did that one right here. Oh, here's an enlargement of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you spoken light language, or do you?
I am unable to so far, and there are a lot of people around me that are able to, and I'm able to take, pictures of them and things showing up and coming through. But they said I'm the ambassador, so I take the photos.
Wow. And this is again Sedona?
That's in Sedona once again. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And this is, of course, that's that back road leading towards Mushroom Rock. And it looks like there's two merging, or there almost looks like a heart, right there.
Wow.
This one was hanging out in the tree.
It's like a little V, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it's, the even in the rain, so this is at my sister's house, and my grandmother had passed, and I was asking for a sign, from my grandmother,
Okay.
and backyard, front yard, and they were coming through, and you can just see that they were, noticeable.
Wow. Well, there's one with a pretty intricate patterns. You see that
Hmm.
in.
That one's got like a little hole in it, or something else in it, and then you get these glowing, and these, so that was the first time I'd ever encountered them doing like that.
And the little ones are orbs as well. You have the big ones, and you have those little dots almost.
Yeah, and this is during the rain too, so like, raindrops, a raindrop versus orb, and you can tell like an orb looks completely different, from a raindrop.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Diane Cooper, in her book, she said, during the rain, when it rained, it's a really great time to be able to take photos for them to show, and literally to be able to ask, for my grandmother's presence.
Okay. So what you're saying is the orbs are the raindrops are the little ones, and the orbs are the big ones.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. That basically proves that you're not photographing rain.
I mean, it was literally in the rain, but these,
Yeah. But that's the thing. You can tell a difference. There's two different objects clearly in that photograph.
yeah. And that was me literally asking for my grandmother's, presence to, and I know that she's always with me, but this was just, confirmation, like, if you're asking for a loved one to come through or to show themselves, and you're open to their presence, and you're not grieving. A lot of people, when they're grieving, they shut off their heart,
Yeah.
and so they're unable to feel it. They're unable to see them. They're unable to hear them. But if you're open, because death is not the end.
Yeah.
And I fully am aware of that.
Where's this?
That is also at my sister's front yard. They put on quite the display.
Yeah, that's got pretty complex inner structure for a piece of dust.
Mm-hmm. Or a water droplet.
Or a water droplet. Yeah. There again, it almost looks like it's like a cell. It almost looks like a living cell.
Yeah, the sacred geometry that's inside of them. Like I said, some people see faces, and other things, but they really. And this was where the one where my granted, if you're there, so near the big old orb, shower right there, and my nephews were standing directly behind me when I was taking the picture, and there was nothing there, just saw the rain coming down. But when I took the photo, we looked at it, and they're like, "Where are those coming from?" And it's like they're there and then they're gone. They're beings of light, so, and they can pop in a dimension, pop out of a dimension as they freely choose to.
Amazing stuff, Darrell. Amazing.
Darrell, have you seen them often change, shape or materialize into something else? Like, can they arrive as an orb and then become something else?
Yes, I've seen them where the one, you go from one, and then there's, next thing you know, there's like one inside of one. Then you get, they piggyback on each other. And where it's just one single one, and then you look up, and then it's like this one, merging with the other. This one has got something going on with it. So they it's like they do have a conscious, and if you clear intentions, or just asking them. And like these three, I'm like, is that what's going on here? Because I saw the other ones with different colors, but these super big bright ones, like, that's noticeable.
Wow. And you could see those with your eyes?
No, it was just the rain. I could only see them after I took the photos.
Okay.
And Darrell, to your knowledge, because you're saying that all that's really required is to be open and to ask for them to appear, right? To be open-minded and open-hearted. So
yes.
To your knowledge, is there any such thing as a protocol to try to attract orbs, like there would be for a CE5, for example?
I just learned that, trust your intuition. If you get the goosebumps, because your body's the perfect antenna for receiving messages from spirit. Nobody knows your body better than you do. So when you get the tingling sensation on the back of your neck, on the top of your head, your forehead, or your shoulders, or that gut feeling, that's the way that, those premonitions or whatnot. And I just allow myself to follow through with that, and it's like how many signs does it take for you to finally allow yourself to trust? The supernatural can't be explained, and that's what I come to understand. As much you want to try to explain it, how can you explain things that there's really no explanation for? you
This,
know,
this
and
is the one I sent around last night to people.
yeah,
What do you think of this?
you know, literally, they were out there. You know, the monks were chanting, and they were really chanting too. And I was documenting. You could see that it just kept increasing, you know, in the intensity of the energy there. And I mean, literally, this temple, thousands of people come to it every single day, and that's like the main altar right there, the main shrine where they put the incense in at. So it was the energy was quite powerful at that place, and just walking around it, it just felt as natural. I mean, literally, they're going up, they're going across, and the some of them were like, you know, they didn't know what to make of that, you know, but the head monk did acknowledge that it was, you know, that there was definitely something to me. He couldn't quite put his hands on it, but he's like, you know, there's something to you.
No
Um,
kidding. This is pretty hard to say you're photoshopping this kind of stuff when you got the monks in there and everything.
yeah, I don't have time to do that stuff, you know.
And
You know,
you showed them the photos. You would do that in all
Yeah.
the cases where people would be looking at the photos after you've taken them, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because literally, I was one of the, I guess, one of the first foreigners ever, you know, ever allowed to even take photos, you know, there, especially on the inside of the quarters of the monks and whatnot. So for me to be able to do it, it was a great honor, and it really came through.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
this,
Yeah, it's
you know,
okay.
yeah, yeah, you know, and it doesn't quite like what is that, you know, but that was, you know, hanging out under the building.
Wow.
You know, this is my friend's backyard in Florida. And she said, I think there's a portal in my backyard. And I said, let's go check it out. And sure enough, you know, they showed out in her backyard. There's so much stuff that came through.
Wow.
Um,
They're all heading towards the heavens, man. Wow.
yeah, you know, so they were active.
No kidding.
Yeah. You know, and it's over near the, what is that lake? Dad nabbit. It's a big lake right across the street from her. One of the lakes there in Orlando, Florida.
Wow.
And it's just, but yeah, her backyard is you know, it's amped.
Yeah. Wow.
Every time I'd walk back here, the hair on the back of my head would stand up, and it's like, you know, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, it says something that the scales are clearly showing the motion is going from the ground upwards, right? So it'd be
Yeah.
hard for someone to look at that and say, oh, that's just rain falling, because rain.
Largest elemental that I'd ever taken a picture of. That thing was huge.
Above the trailer there.
Uh-huh. You know, and of course you see the orbs too. So they always like to show up, you know, with each other, you know. So it's not just one group, you know, you'll have elementals showing up with orbs, you know, and many other things, but you know, they really came through.
That's an impressive photo.
Thank you.
Oh wow, what's this?
You know, that's once again, that's her backyard, you know. Yeah, and that you know, energy moving.
Clearly moving upwards.
You know, and this is at Sedona, and this was at the summer solstice of 2014. And of course, you know, they're, you know, doing sound healing and whatnot, and you can just see, you know, the energy, you know, around there. And this is also the spot where, you know, the first three elementals, actually the first four elementals showed themselves to me.
Wow.
Was there in this area.
Wow. There's a impressive one.
You know, they're like, that's the moon. I'm like, have you ever seen the moon hanging out like that? This is not the moon. That's a Death Star or something.
With an inner structure, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it's literally, I mean, they're calling it in, and it's like, you know, you can even see them on people. So there was profound healing taking place.
Here's the bird, the hawk one.
And that was going up to Shasta, and they kept doing figure eights overhead. So I took a picture of it, and it's like, okay, you know, it could be lens flare as an orb, you know.
Yeah.
You can see the wolf. There's a wolf face right here. You know, it's faint, but I could, you know, the ears of it, and there's the nose. But that, I just thought that was rather interesting that, you know, a wolf spirit would be coming through, you know, right above the crystal there.
Yeah. Wow.
And there's, you know, this same place where you saw those people at, you know, but you can see the little elemental right there.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Wow. yeah.
And there, there
Close
it
up.
was. So the, whether it be orb, elemental, they all come through. So this was a picture of the moon, and I'd never seen this type of thing
Around the
around the moon before. Like, what am I looking at here? I took like 4 photos, and I'm like, are we having a lunar eclipse? What's going on?
or the
No
moon's
one could,
pregnant or something.
yeah, no one could explain it. And I'm like, okay, this
Oh,
is
that's
interesting. The where is it? Yeah, and there was another part, and you can see the different colors on it. This was out at Angel Valley,
wow.
here in Sedona.
Wow. Again with the moon. Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
So it's like a little bit of everything, that, and I just,
Honored that we get to see your collection here. This is very impressive. Very impressive.
I had no idea what all to send you. I just wanted to try to put a little bit of, everything in there, to try to cover that. I literally, all kinds of things shows itself. I don't mess with the dark because I have no time to be messing with the dark. It's light and love. I'd rather deal with that than the other stuff. And that elemental's over there. As this is at the Bigfoot conference, and one of those rod looking things, and it, it shoots by. And it's like, literally, I'm taking a picture of him, and I had no idea that was even there. And it's like, there it was, and it's like, okay, that's interesting.
How many
So
photos would you have taken? And we've got about 300 here, I think, but you've taken.
yeah, this was a beam, highlighted. You can actually see like a gray or whatnot, that's
Yep.
hanging out there. And didn't see it until I was literally going through doing the close-ups of that, and I'm like, wait a minute, and you can see the mouth, the eyes, the nose. I'm like, that's a beam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they do, because that's literally, we had that experience, back in 2017 where, they took us on the ship. There was a group of us up there in the amphitheater, and this is literally heading up to the amphitheater. And that path, if the lights are not on, they can be pitch black. So this was at Red Rock Crossing, and it's, in the trees. A dragonfly, it kept landing on me, and it, flew over that way. And I'm like, all right, I guess you want me to take a photo there. So I did.
Wow.
And this is what showed up. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
And it's like, and you can literally see the little beans, setting there, so even, it's right there by the tree, and it's by the water. So I'm like, is it a water beam? But then you can see the face and this one as they were morphing through, and at the time I had no idea what I was looking at. I'm just like, no one's going to believe this, I'd taken, of course, a lot of these photos I've posted on Facebook years ago,
Yeah.
because literally I wanted to document my spiritual awakening, from, being called Sedona for 2011, to now. And so I've taken thousands of photos, and this is at Carlsbad Caverns, in New Mexico. And, we're 800 something feet below the surface, and I'm walking through, and there are orbs, in the cavern.
There you
And
go.
it's like, all right, I guess that's dust too, but it's like, they're in this place, and always the national parks, they seem to have that unique energy, about them that you just can't quite, put your finger on. But I mean, literally, you've got orbs like this, showing up in there.
Wow.
And I don't have time to doctor any of this stuff. I just take the photo, and the people that are open to it, great, and the people that are not, it's not meant for them.
Have a good life. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It does seem to be following you in terms of.
So this was like the face. I'm like, you can see it's, the mouth, nose, and I'm like, looks like the old man of Carlsbad Caverns. But I see faces in almost everything, and it's like almost instantly I can look at something like, and it's like, there's a face in that, and like this looks like a baby coming down. You see the hands, and they're like, there's the head. I'm like, that looks like a baby, but it's like, it's Carlsbad Cavern. What sense would that make? And yet, nature has a remarkable way
Yeah.
of getting your attention.
Yeah, you gave me some of a mountain I didn't put in. We can maybe do another session where we do the ones you gave me, the ones with the.
The face. Yeah, the faces of Bill Rock's what I call it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So these, and literally, so these are where, you get the orbs where you can just see the very things going on, or you can see the color or the hue around them, you know, and that's, you know, like the reddish or greenish one right there, and then the blue or whatnot, you know, Raphael and Michael coming through, because usually, you know, the one's helping to heal and one's helping to protect, you know, or to clear it off, you know. Of course, you know, incoming, you know, it's like orbs coming in, so they do move, you know, and they can stand still, but they interact, you know, and it's, you know, whoever's open, you know, open to that. And
I actually have one on my Facebook. If you look at my Facebook 2 days ago from Macedonia, where we posted it looks almost identical. Hers is a little bit bigger, but it's same idea.
uh-huh,
Incoming.
I saw it, you know, and so it really excited me, because it's like I'm not the only one, you know. There are plenty of others around, you know, that are being communicated with. And this is like I was at SeaWorld, but you can see there's an orb, you know, hanging out right there by the, you know, the shark jaws, you know. So, and this was before I even was aware that I was able to see this stuff. This was 2010, you know, and I hadn't even, you know, thought I had my spiritual awakening to 2011. But they were still present with me. And so I went looking back at old photos, and sure enough, there are orbs all around me.
Wow.
You know, so I was like, oh.
Orbs? Would you say that orbs are your first contact experience? No.
I would, you know, because literally they had been around me before I was even aware of it. And then of course, you know, the elementals came through. And, you know, working at Walt Disney World, it was like, how cool would it be if, you know, Tinkerbell was real? And lo and behold, you know, they show themselves, and like, oh my goodness, they are real. And literally, you know, I wanted to create you know, a fairy photo book, and I'm like, I just need, you know, more fairy photos. And you know, I have well over, you know, 50, you know, elemental photos now, you know, where I could just do the elemental book by itself. So this was the mist on March 8th of 2012. I would grab your camera and come outside. So that's the moon. It's supposed to be the moon. So when I come out and I take the picture, you know, it starts to form. And what you'll see is there's this, it starts to change shape. And, you know, there's the moon again. And as it's continuing to change shape, it forms into what I call an angel. Yeah, which there she is. You know, you can see the wings. You know, you can see her face, and this is like her little shaw over her head. You know, arms, but you know, literally there she was. And what I, you know, Archangel Haniel, Archangel of the Moon, you know, who helps with manifestations. And literally, that's, I heard grab your camera, come outside, so I did. And I took the photos and seen her literally form right in front of my face. And then, of course, you see the orbs around it too. So I was like, okay.
So this is a message in your head that you get to go outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty common. Yeah. Wow.
And then, of course, you know, the moon goes back to normal. I was like, okay. Yeah, it's like that. And then, of course, well, I'm still here with you. And it's like, okay.
Wow.
You know, so even when you think you're alone, you're not alone.
Yeah, I've got about 6 or 7 different people with the almost identical type of mist. You can see it in different forms, where it gets a little more formed into a being, and then it sort of moves out. Wow, there you go. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You know, that's like, I'm still here. Okay.
Yeah, and they would call that fog, but fog is on the ground, not up in the air.
Yeah. You know, so I would just allow them. No, I just listen, you know, and when I don't listen, I usually get a lesson, you know.
There's one that I actually put in here, because this is what people say it's fog, but you can see fog is at the coldest spot, which is the ground. It goes from the ground up, and it's horizontal, not vertical.
So this is the face in the cloud, and this will once again over Bell Rock, you know, and there's it looks like a gray, you know, but you can see the teeth, you know, directly in the face in the cloud. Some people see angel wings, and many people see many different things, you know, but it's like there's a being here, there's a being here, and then there's like, you know, almost like a ship over here. But that was like them all coming together to announce and show themselves. You know, and then of course as it starts to morph, you know, and it was changing, but there was like, wow, I'm seeing this.
Wow.
So when you have these different beings come in, Darrell, what is the experience like energetically? Like, do you ever have any interference, for example, with any technology that's around, or lights going on and off, or just
oh my goodness,
what happens energetically overall when they show up?
Electronics shutting off, brand new batteries in a camera going dead after one shot, you know, that these are brand new batteries. the little, like, my phone just a moment ago came on by itself and Google came on. I'm like, I didn't touch my phone. But it's like, we cannot help you with this. Excuse me. So, it happens quite often. And there are times when, TV will cut on by itself or cut off by itself. Phone, Google will come on, is like, are they listening to me? What's going on here? But yeah, I get a lot of unique interference from time to time.
What is this, Darrell?
That was one of those ships over at Bell Rock, taking a picture, and it's like, okay, it's, and then it's, it goes from that to this, and I'm like, okay, like, well, maybe it's a helicopter, but it's like, I've never seen a helicopter with beacon lights like that.
Yeah. Wow. That's impressive. Look at that. Wow.
So literally, the ships, I mean, the universal nations, the ambassador of the universal nations, so they all come through, and it's, they show themselves and then broad daylight at Bell Rock.
Wow. Sedona, Sinead, you've never been to Sedona, right?
I have not. No, it's one of the places that I'd like to go to because of what Darrell said about it being a hotspot.
There you go. Put it on your list. We'll go there sometime. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
And then, of course, so I just want to be like, here's the ships, the ships, orbs, elementals, just like, because a little bit of everything shows itself. And, for a lot of these, like I said, I'd posted years ago, and, and that's Miss Sue, Sue and my daughter Jazz. And this is, once again, back there on the path leading towards Mushroom Rock, and we're calling them in. And sure enough, they obliged and started to come through. Like that one was like right there by Masu, and then the one up there, and then they just went surprise, like they all kind of jumped out.
Sideways there.
That's the moon up there.
Yeah.
And that's one of those beings again. And this is Mushroom Rock, and this is like a natural spring right here. The water is super, super cold, but a lot of people where I live out here, they like to go and meditate right here, like that being right there.
Wow.
I could not even begin to tell you what it was, but it was massive. That it wasn't there. We took the picture, and there it was, and it was like, okay. But this is usually we go here and just sit and meditate, and the water just flows through. But I call it's a natural fairy glen, and this whole area, is quite remarkable as far as the energy goes. This is one of the orbs that was in my friend's backyard.
Wow.
And it's above us, around us.
And Darrell, that Grant has this thing that he calls the theory of wow, right? Like stuff happens just to get our attention, to encourage us to tune in, to encourage us to wake up, to open our minds. Do you think that the orbs are kind of in line with that, or do you think there's something going on? Like it seems to be more and more widespread that more and more people now are seeing orbs and talking about them. It's become a topic. So what do you think is up with that? Why are they here? Why are they appearing?
It seems like this is the time for the mass consciousness to shift in and awaken. Like even now with the COVID-19 pandemic going on, a lot more people are experiencing awakenings, if you will, profound shiftings happening. And the old paradigm is ending so that the new can come in. And it's like when you try to open the one door, but the old door is still, you got to close the old door so that you don't create that vacuum. And literally it's for those who are open for that. And now more and more of the masses are now becoming more open to it. I mean, even the Pentagon released the videos of the of the unidentified flying objects or whatnot. So it's like they're preparing, more and more is coming out. And for those that are open, it's like there are those that are I guess the way showers or the mavericks, if you will, to share to others that that they're not crazy. This is Garrett, up there. He was touching one of the crystal skulls, and later the one before, there was hardly any around, and then he puts his hand on it, and poof,
Right,
so the
wow.
that sacred spot, and he speaks the star language too, and they interact with him
Oh, are you still there?
profoundly.
Yeah. And what's his name?
Garrett Duncan.
Okay, beautiful.
And this is, literally right there at here on the back road at Mushroom Rock, the and they're all around coming through. Um, and so I really enjoy taking photos of people, to share what's around them, especially for those who are open to it, and they'll pop through like right here, there's one right above him, and they just come through, especially for those, and I know people say it's lens flare. I mean, it showed up around a few people, and heck, even if it is lens flare, light has a message, for us. But some people, it's better to be skeptical and debunk it. It makes them feel better so they can sleep at night until they wake up and there's 3 glowing orbs hovering at their bedside. Which that happened to me. And that would. Turns out they had a message for me, and they said, "Do not be afraid." And it's easy for you to say, "You're a glowing orb," and who are you? And it's like Archangel Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel. And Archangel Uriel asked me, "Darrell, what do you want to know?" And I said, "The truth. Why am I here? What are my gifts? What am I supposed to do with them? Why was I born to the family I was born to in Bowling Green, Kentucky, of all places? Where's my where's my soul family? What am I called to do?" And that's where you're placed with where you're birthed at, that's your triggering point, to help you to awaken, to into your gifts. And this is up here at the amphitheater, and that sometimes there's absolutely nothing there, and then there are moments where it's like this, and
this is where you were taken on the ship. Who were you? Who do you think you're dealing with, like in terms of being on the ship?
It felt like the Ponti are very active. I have felt myself Arcturians coming through, and Palladians. Okay. The healing technology, the information, and that's what they want to bring to us and help us to assist and receive. And here's Kevin with Terry. I don't know the other gentleman, but literally I just could feel it around them, and that it's quite a remarkable place up there, as it all comes through. And so this is one of the first 3 elementals that showed itself to me on April 20th of 2012. And of course, it's a butterfly. You're right, because butterflies glow in the dark. You're right. But there were 3 of them. I took 4 photos, and out of 4 photos, 3 of them had these beings in them. And this, there was, and this was the same place where the large group was at, and the one orb that looked like the moon. This was there, and it used to be now it's called the Pump House, but it was, the Crystal Enlightenment. And this is one of the other elemental beings, that was hanging out there, that showed up. And that's what it looked like. And literally these were the first, I said, if the fairies are here, please show yourself, and the other one is all the way at the top, so people tend to miss her. And I literally had to, look up, and I didn't even get her all the way fully in the frame, for the third one. And she really does look like Tinkerbell. Yeah. And when people see it, they really get upset because they're like, there's no way that that's a real fairy. And it's whatever. I asked them to appear, and they appeared, and that I got so excited I wanted to show people. And they're like, get out of here, you photoshopped it. I'm like, I didn't even have time to Photoshop it,
Wow. That's the end of today's presentation for now. So let me settle and say I'm honored to have met you and to have had you share this material. A lot of people will see it, and we'll feed you the reactions, and I think it will enlighten a lot of people, because what I've found is that when I started showing the orb stuff, there's enough people who are seeing it where suddenly everybody comes and says, oh, I got a collection too. And it sort of opens up that a lot of people, it's sort of, I think you give people your photographs are so powerful that people realize, oh, mine are maybe better or not as good, but now I can come forward because I'm not the only crazy guy that's taking these kind of things. So I really appreciate it. Sinead, have you got anything you wanna clear up here before we shut down?
No, just basically the same thing, you know, that I was, Darrell, you're probably not aware, but when Grant had his live streamed orb panel just recently, Desta and I were watching all the comments in the chats on both YouTube and Facebook. And a lot of people were saying, this stuff is never out there. You know, I've never seen an event like this happening before. Now I feel like I want to share my photos. So it's just what you were basically saying, Grant, that it's been really encouraging to a lot of people to see this kind of content coming out. Even if it's controversial or questionable, it's still opening that door and allowing people to have these conversations and to share this stuff more often. So I think that's wonderful. And Darrell, thank you so much for being here. You just bring a lovely presence as well as all your terrific photographs. So thanks so much.
Thank y'all for having me. It was truly an honor, and to finally be able to share, you know, the photos. Like I said, I posted a lot of these, you know, for the past multiple years on Facebook, and nothing. And literally after the orb panel, you know, to share them, and you know, it was like, you know, breathe new life into it. And I've had people say, I got better ones. Not a problem. You
Not a
know,
problem.
I just, you know, they said I would be a bridge and a connector, you know, for people. And that's what they said, universal nations. So the universal nations, and to bring that, you know, that love and that light, and, you know, for those that are drawn to it, you know, and to inspire them to know that if you're open to it, which they want us to be open to it so that they can bring more. This is just the beginning. There's a lot more to come. I mean, 2020 is loaded, you know, a lot more, you know, energy to come through. And I thank you for, you know, having me on and giving me an opportunity to, you know, share my story and share my photos.
Do you have a website, or you just work off of Facebook, or do you have anything that's going on the site, or what are you actually working on now in terms of what people may link into what you're doing? Because now people know who you are.
Right now, I am working on my my book, which I've been dragging my feet for the past 3 years, so I didn't know if people would be open to it, you know. And literally, Balboa Press has been hounding me to get that in, and a lot of people want me to get that in. Um, of course, I haven't launched my Facebook page or my Instagram or anything, because I'm literally just being low. Because, you know, when you know, you see things and hear things, people are like, "Okay, you crazy." But this is the time to announce and launch it out there. So I will be creating the website soon, but the Facebook and all that will be up, and everyone will be able to do that, because I do readings. But overall, you know, I'm a licensed massage therapist, you know, medical massage practitioner, and I do astrology readings, tarot readings, angel readings, and spirit photography. You know, so I cover, you know, sound healing, you know, body work, you know, and messages. And here in Sedona, and it's as natural as breathing to me,
Yeah.
you know, and I love what I do.
Well, it would appear that you have some sort of connection. I think from what we've seen, that maybe people should be coming to you because you seem to have some sort of connection to somebody. And when you do the book, make sure you let me know. We will do whatever we can to promote the book, and whatever you need some promotion. You've got some new photos. Let's do it again. And I'm absolutely thrilled. I think you've got the best collection that I've seen. I've seen some collections. I've seen a few people have contacted me with their collections of orb photos, but yours is by far and away the best. And we have an orb 2, so you may want to join us on the orb 2 thing. We'll put a couple of more.
I would love to,
because those get the first one got a lot of views. A lot of people are watching it. And we're also going to do an orb panel. I think I mentioned this on the first one, where you can come on the panel and we'll give you all the questions, and you can take a look at the questions. And then when it comes to you, you can say, okay, question number 6, I think I've got an answer for, and just try to help people out, because we did gather a lot of questions off that first orb panel of people who are very curious as to this and that. So I hope you can join me on those 2 events.
I would love to.
And when you do your book, make sure you let us know. And if we're in Sedona, I was supposed to be in Sedona actually a couple of weeks ago, but they canceled the conference. So when I'm there, we'll link up together. I'll take you for dinner, and we'll get together. And if I'm at Shasta, hopefully you can join us up in Shasta at some of the events there.
I would love to.
People would love you. The Shasta people will see your stuff, and I'm sure you'll get some invites to come up to Shasta, because everybody wants to see something. Everybody wants to see some, even if it's just photographs. They want to be around someone like you who's sort of like tapped in, because they feel like, you know, we need some energy to help bring in the things. So I really appreciate your taking the time to talk to us. And again, I am absolutely honored to have met you and to have seen your stuff. It's fantastic stuff. Don't ever be ashamed of what you did. It's absolutely great.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to say thank you to Kevin, because he was the one that got me into contact with you, and I owe him a great deal. So Blessings to you both. It was an absolute honor, and I look forward to the many more great things to come.
Beautiful.
So thank you, Darrell. So do we. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Y'all have a great rest of the day.
Okay. Namaste.
Bye bye.